HR Basics is a series of short lessons designed to highlight what you need to know about a particular human resource management topic. In today's HR Basics, we explore Form I-9 and the federal law that requires every employer to complete Employment Eligibility Verification. Form I-9 will help you verify your employee's identity and employment authorization. Form I-9 is used to verify and identify the employment authorization of individuals hired for employment in the United States. All U.S. employers must ensure proper completion of Form I-9 for each individual they hire for employment in the U.S. The U.S. Citizenship and Immigration Services, or USCIS, is the government agency that oversees administration and compliance for Form I-9. All employers must complete and retain Form I-9, Employment Eligibility Verification, for every person they hire for employment on or after November 6, 1986, in the U.S., as long as the person works for pay. You are required to complete and retain a Form I-9 for every employer you hire for employment in the U.S., except for individuals hired on or before November 6, 1986, who are continuing their employment and have a reasonable expectation of employment at all times. Note that some limitations to this exception do apply. Next, individuals employed for casual domestic work in private homes on a specific, sporadic, irregular, and intermittent basis. Also, independent contractors or individuals providing labor for you if they are employed by a contractor providing those services, for employee leasing, and temporary agencies. And finally, individuals not physically working in the United States. Several versions of Form I-9 Employment Eligibility Verification have been issued since the form was first introduced in 1987. Not all versions are valid for use. To determine whether you're using the correct version of Form I-9, look at the revision date printed on the bottom left corner of the form, as you see here, and not the expiration date printed on the top of the form. Form I-9 consists of 3 sections. Section 1, Employee Information and Attestation. Section 2, Employer and Authorized Representative Review and Verification. And Section 3, Re-Verification and Rehires. Section 1 is completed by employees, while Section 2 is completed by employers, as well as Section 3. When completing Form I-9, you must make the complete instructions to the form and the list of acceptable documents available to your employee. Your employee is responsible to complete Section 1 of Form I-9. Your newly hired employee must complete and sign Section 1 no later than their first day of employment. You may have your employees complete Form I-9 either on the first day of employment, the actual commencement of the employment of an employee for wages, referred to as the date of hire, or before the first date of hire if you've offered that individual a job and they've accepted that offer. In Section 1, employees must provide their full legal name, other names used if applicable, their current address including street name, number, city, state, and zip code, date of birth, a check mark next to the appropriate box to indicate whether they're a U.S. citizen or non-citizen national, lawful permanent resident, or alien authorized to work in the U.S., their alien number, USCIS number, Form I-94, admission number, or foreign passport number, including country of issuance, and the date employment authorization expires, if applicable, and finally, their signature and the date. Additionally, in Section 1, employees may provide their Social Security number. This is optional unless the employer uses E-Verify, their email address, for the employee to receive email notifications if the employer uses E-Verify, and their telephone number. For Section 1, the employer must review the information provided by your employee in Section 1 and ensure that your employee provided information in all the required fields. Employers must complete and sign Section 2 of Form I-9 within 3 business days of the date of hire of their employee. The hire date means the first day of work for pay. For example, if your employee began work for pay on Monday, you must complete Section 2 by Thursday of that week. If the job lasts less than 3 days, you must complete Section 2 no later than the first day of work for pay. Employees must present unexpired, original documentation that shows the employer their identity and employment authorization. Your employee chooses what documentation to present. Employees must present documentation as you see here. Either one document from List A or one document from List B in combination with one document from List C. List A contains documents that show both identity and employment authorization. List B documents show only identity, and List C documents show employment authorization. Employees must provide documentation to their employers that show identity and authorization to work. For detailed information about acceptable documents, always refer to www.uscis.gov. For Section 2, the employer or authorized representative must ensure that any document your employee presents is original and on the list of acceptable documents or is an acceptable receipt. Physically examine each document, determine if it reasonably appears to be genuine and to relate to your employee presenting it. Enter your employee's last name, first name, and middle initial if provided from Section 1. Enter the document title, issuing authority, numbers, and expiration date, if any, from the original documents your employee presented. Enter the date your employee began or will begin work for pay. Enter the first and last name, signature, and title of the person completing Section 2, as well as the date he or she completed the section, and enter the employer's business name and address. When an employee's employment authorization document or I-9 expires, an employer must re-verify to ensure the employee is still authorized to work. To find out if the employee's employment authorization expires, look in Section 1 for the date that the employment authorization expires, and in Section 2 for the date that the employment authorization document expires. An employer's knowledge and administration of Form I-9 is critical for an organization's compliance with the Immigration Reform and Control Act. Employers should utilize the vast array of compliance resources from the United States Citizenship and Immigration Services, USCIS, by visiting www.uscis.gov.